Good morning, everybody. Good morning. What a beautiful, wonderful morning it truly is. It is truly a beautiful morning. Okay, everybody, good morning. As we start Monday morning, the chitas of the day, the chumash, we are holding in the second part of Parshas Mishpatim. These are very intricate Jewish laws, very powerful laws. I think I'm going to try to give you a synopsis of the Rashi sometime. Some of these long Rashis, I'll try to give you a synopsis, then read the whole Rashi, because it gets sometimes very intricate, so to say, and you get lost anyway. So let's try to do this. We're holding on chapter 21, verse number 20. The pasuk says, if a man should strike his maidservant or his manservant or his maidservant, bashevet, with a rod, umeis tachas yodei, and he will die, God forbid, under his hand. Nakim, he should be surely avenged. So Rashi says over here, we're talking not about a Jewish slave, we're talking about a non-Jewish slave. We're talking about a non-Jewish slave. And it goes into the general category of maki ishmeis. You kill somebody, you have to be put to death. Whether you killed a Jew or a non-Jew, you're put to death. But over here, the Torah wants to teach us a different law. Not that you be put to death or not put to death, or you kill somebody, whether the Jew, you're a Jewish slave or non-Jewish slave. The Torah wants to teach us the concept that if the person gets well, if the person would get well, that he didn't die, he got well, and the lady dies, there's a different law. It has to be that he died from the actual hitting of that person at that time. Bashevet, with a rod. So now she says, why did the Torah tell us with a rod? The Torah told us with a stick, with a stone, with a knife. Why with a rod? The Torah wants to tell us a general rule that you don't have to kill a person with a gun. Well, no guns in those in Rashi. With a knife. Anything that has the capability of killing somebody goes in that law. And what is the capability of killing somebody? A piece of metal, a rock, something that even though that is not, maybe you think, oh, it's a small rock. I'm only going to throw a small rock at somebody. No, that rock has the capability of killing somebody. I can take a small piece of metal. That piece of metal has the capability of killing somebody. And therefore, even though you might say it's small, doesn't make a difference. Torah teaches us anything that has the capability, a piece of metal, a rock, has the capability of killing somebody. Nakim, Misa B'Sayef, when it says Nakim must, he shall be avenged, is you shall kill the person with a sword. So you're not allowed to kill. People might think Kaspa, there's a non-Jewish slave. It's my money. I can kill him. Torah tells you cannot kill anybody. Verse 21. This is really what the Rashi said. The verse 21 is what Rashi says the Torah wants to teach us. If he survives it, like you don't put a person to death because he threw something that wanted to kill him. He kaspayo because it's money, and therefore you need to let him go if you hurt a non-Jewish slave. But if he stands up and he lives, Baruch Hashem, you didn't kill him, you're not put to death for doing something, even if you wanted to do something. Verse 22, very fascinating law. If two men are quarreling, v'nokfu isha, and they hit a pregnant woman that was passing by, and she miscarries. But there's no fatality on the woman. The man who hit the woman by mistake shall be punished. As her husband will demand, the husband of the wife, and he gives restitution according to the judges. So Rashi says, if two men go out and fight with one another, even though they didn't want to hit the woman, They were fighting with each other, but one swung his hand out and by mistake hit the woman. And Negifa, Rashi says, doesn't mean he pushed her. Either he pushed her by mistake, and the woman survived, then the child that was not born is a monetary issue. You don't put a person to death on a miscarriage. That's Torah law. It's considered a monetary issue because it's like a hand and a foot of the mother, and you have to evaluate in court what is the monetary value, and they have to pay money. And he gives it according to the judges. Verse 23. If God forbid, through hitting the woman dies. And then you have to put him to death because he killed the woman. So the rabbis say, the Rashi says, and this the rabbis argue because he didn't want to kill the woman. Because he was not even going after the woman. So why would you kill somebody? Why would you kill an unintentional murderer? So therefore, you don't really. There's no death in an unintentional murderer either. So the Torah wants to. So one rabbi holds that you put the man to death when we hit the woman, and the other one rabbis hold no. The Torah is still talking about money, because even he has to run to the city of refuge for the death of the woman, but he has to pay monetary, because you cannot put a person to death in an unintentional murder. That's a separate law of the Torah. You only put to death unintentional murder. Verse 24. Ayin tachas ayin, an eye for an eye. Shen tachas shen, a tooth for a tooth. Yad tachas yad, a hand for a hand. Regel tachas regel, a foot for a foot. So Rashi says, self-understood, everybody translates this totally wrong. Sima ayin chavines need to mean the Torah does not mean an eye for an eye. The Torah means the value of an eye for an eye. You don't give an eye for an eye. Rashi says, as the rabbis have taught us in Masechta Baba Kama, that it doesn't mean an eye for an eye. If a person, God forbid, hits somebody's eye out, you don't take his eye out. If a person cuts off somebody's arm, you don't cut his arm off. You give the value of the hand for the hand. And the question is, why did the Torah say an eye for an eye and a foot for a foot? And there's many reasons to that. I'll give you this one reason. I saw a beautiful reason, because the Torah wants to tell, even if you give the monetary value, you really should have taken your hand off. But we don't give a hand for a hand. And but you should realize what you have done, and money is not going to really bring back this person's hand. Verse 25. Kiva tachas kiva, a burn for a burn. Petza tachas petza, a wound for a wound. Chabura tachas chabura, a bruise for a bruise. So that says kiva is makas eish. This is not a we take a hand off, it's a loss of a limb. Over here, it's the pain. When a person gets burned, nobody should get burned, but it's extremely painful. A burn, it can last. A person can be in pain for a long time for a burn, and that's really the negative of a burn. Petza, Rashi says, is a makkah. You hit the person that took out blood. That's a petza. You slap a guy is not considered a petza. Petza means I punched a guy extremely hard. I make him black and blue. That's considered a petza. And again, the punishment is because in Torah you have tsar, nezek, tsar, ripui, sheves. There's 5 basic monetary issues. Nezek, the damage. Tsar, pain. Ripui, the payment of a doctor. Sheves, his lack of work, and boishes, his embarrassment. So these all go in these laws that you have to pay for all these things. Rashi says. So you have to pay for the nezek, tsar. Tsar is even though you pay for the damages. Let's say I paid the doctor bill, but what was the tsar of this person? What was the pain? So one of the Torah laws is the pain of a person, and he's obligated to pay the pain. And how you evaluate pain, that needs to be evaluated in a court of law, and the court will evaluate what is the pain of this person. So Rashi's chabura, a blow with blood clot collects chabura. That's a chabura. That's I mentioned before. You punch somebody and he receives a black and blue. That is a chabura. Verse number 26. If a person will strike the eye of his manservant, this is not Jewish servant, or the eye of his maidservant, and he, God forbid, he knocked out her eye, you have to let him free. I mentioned this before. You have to let him free. You have to pay him for the damages and let him free. And the Rashi says this law is with the 24 tips of limbs, the fingers, toes, ears, nose. If God for you hit his male organ, so any kind of, there's 24 different limbs in a person, outside limbs. You can start counting them. And if you chopped off his finger, you have to let him free. So why does the Torah tell us the ayin and shein in verse 27? You have the tooth. Why did the Torah mention the eye and a tooth? I would say that it's an eye was created with him at birth, and a tooth grows with him. So we picked the two things that are seemingly opposites. The Torah picked an eye, that a person's born with an eye, and he picked a tooth that it grows and it can grow again. So therefore, the Torah picked these two things and everything in between. Everything in between, things that grow with a person and things that he's born with. And either way, if you destroyed it, you have to let them free. Verse 27, that's the second verse. We spoke about it. If he knocks out the tooth of his servant, or the tooth of his maidservant, he has to let him out free. On the first tooth. Okay, this teaches us you have to respect your servants, whether they're Jews or not Jews. And there are different laws, Jews and not Jews, because a Jewish slave goes out of 6 years, a non-Jewish slave doesn't. But you're not allowed to abuse your slave. Verse 28. The whole new law. If a bull gores a man, or a woman, a mace, and the person dies. Yankel's ox gored another person, and the person died. So the law is you have to stone the ox. And you cannot eat the flesh. Comes not kosher. And the owner of the bull is clear. Now this is interesting. It's my bull. It's Yankel's bull, not mine. Yankel's bull. He is not obligated. We'll soon learn what that means. So Rashi says, if when it says shur, it doesn't mean only an ox. It means every kind of animal, whether it's your ox, your dog, your chicken, doesn't make a difference. Any animal, the Torah just talks in a normal kind of a goring ox. The Torah picks something that is usual gore. But if your dog kills somebody, it's the same law. So the Torah says you're not allowed to eat its flesh. So Rashi asks a simple question. If you stone the animal, you didn't do shchita. So why does the Torah tell us you can't eat the flesh? You stoned the animal. The animal was not shechted. How can you eat the flesh? The Torah wants to teach us another law. That if a guy will say, you know what? Oh, my ox, Yankel's ox, gore somebody. You know what? Before I'll bring it to court, or before after it'll be judged, I will go and shecht the animal, not to waste its meat. So to be kosher. Torah tells us, oh no, this animal, even though you will shecht it, you will slaughter it kosherly, before it was stoned, this animal is treif. If it killed somebody, the animal is treif, is non-kosher. The Rashi also continues and says, that over here we're talking about the Torah has a very interesting law between a goring ox and a non-goring ox. We'll see that in the next verse. The Torah over here is talking about a non-goring ox. What's a non-goring ox? An ox that only gored twice. That means it gored twice, and what will be the law? And before it had a chance to gore another, and you didn't kill it before it had a chance to gore a third time. Because once it goes a third time, and it killed somebody, then the person is responsible. So if my dog kills somebody, I'm not responsible the first 2 times, or I just learn responsible only for half of the damages. Only it's a very interesting Torah law. I'm only responsible for half of the damage because it was my animal. I didn't take care of it, but it was only my animal. I didn't kill anybody. But if my animal gored 3 times, now it's called a muad. So the tam for the first 2 times. The third time becomes a muad. Muad means an aggressive animal, and I didn't watch it. Now I'm not only had to put the ox to death, I am now obligated in full damages of what he has done. Verse 29. This is the a habitual mood and habitual. That's the English translation. If this bull is already an habitual gorer, and we warned the owners. He already gored once. He already gored twice. And the owners is not going to watch him. And he killed somebody. The ox needs to be killed, stoned. And also the owner is put to death. Oh, what does that mean? So this is important because you have to know the law. You have to learn the Gemara to go through all the laws. So now she says, first of all, what does it mean the day and after day before yesterday? It had to be 3 different gorings. Number 2 is you had to warn him with witnesses. Number 3, that he had to do they had to the ox had to kill him either through goring or through biting or through pushing, any kind of way an ox or an animal can kill. That's the way he killed. Now, what does it mean? Also, the owner will be put to death. So now she says, doesn't mean that the court puts a person to death for as animal that kills. Does not mean that in the verse. The verse means that it will be put to death by God in this verse, not by human beings. Because the Torah explicitly says, a man will kill a man, he's put to death. This is not a man that killed him. This was an animal. And therefore we know the Torah explicitly says that a man that kills a man or a woman that kills a man doesn't make a difference until a human. A human that kills another human is put to death. But over here, it was his animal. And when your animal kills somebody, you are not put to death, even if the animal is an habitual agorer. So what does the Torah mean? Torah means he's obligated in financial, and God will punish him. God will put him. What's that case? That's what we mentioned yesterday. God will make him come underneath the ladder, and a guy walking up the ladder will by mistake fall off the ladder and kill him. Verse number 30. In Kaifa Yushas Olaf, insofar as ransom shall be levied upon him. What's that means? When Nasa Pidya Nashi shall give the redemption of his soul. You see openly, the Torah does not mean V'gam Ba'al of Yumas that the owner will be put to death, because now the Torah openly says he has to pay. So you see openly, the Torah does not mean in the previous verse he's going to be put to death, because right after that it says he has to pay. When you put somebody to death, they don't have to pay. That's another separate law. Now, if there's monetary and life and death and capital punishment in Jewish law, you don't give him both punishment. You give him the harder punishment, and that's death. And once you put him to death, he's not obligated financially. So that's a separate law. So here we know that the Torah says he has to pay monetary. We know that it means that you don't put him to death. What does it mean that that the owner will be put to death, it means that God will put him to death, not court. Court will only take monetary. In Kaifa Yusha Salah, Rashi says, if is not meant conditionally. If over here is that the court is obligated to put a penalty on this person, and he gives the value of the victim. This is the view of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva says you give the value of the damager. You go, it's an argument in the Talmud. What is the value you give? The value of the person that died, or the value of the person that did, the owner of the ox? That's a Gemara. It's argument. The Gemara Torah does not say exactly pidyon nafshay, the value of this person's soul. Okay, verse 31. A ben yigach, a bas yigach, or he gores a young boy or young girl. Doesn't make a difference if it's an adult, if it's a child, right? Doesn't make a difference. Torah says ben shukatim, whether the son, a son or son of a minor, a bas, that's a child minor. Doesn't make a difference whether you killed an adult or a child. You're obligated to pay. You're obligated to pay in the Torah law, and it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. Your cow or your animal hurt an adult or a child. Verse 32. If the bull will kill a maid, a manservant, and a maidservant, now who do you give the money to? So you have to give 30 shekel to the master, because he owns the maidservants. He owns, so he would get that money. And the bull uses. So here the Torah in the other cases, sometimes you give it to the family. Over here, you have to, if he's a slave, you got to give it to the master. So there, Rashi says it's interesting. The Torah gives a value. Over there, the Torah doesn't. By a regular case, the Torah does not give a value. So Rashi says this is a gzeres hakasif. This is a scriptural decree that we give a value. That's so. How do you know? Maybe the slave is worth more than 30 shekalim. Why do we give the number? That many times that's concept of gzeres hakasif. This is the decree, and that's what it is. And why we don't answer? We don't know. So that's what Rashi says. Maybe this person is worth. Maybe the slave is worth 1,000 shekel, or maybe the slave is 99 years old. He's worth the dinner. He's not worth anything. This is a gzeres hakasif. That Torah says 30 shekel. Ask God why he evaluated all slaves at 30 shekel. I don't know. Verse 33. Yiftach ishbar, the whole new law. Verse 33. Yiftach ishbar, if a person opens up a pit, or he digs a pit, he goes in the middle of the public road, he digs a pit and walks away, and he doesn't cover it over. And an ox or a donkey or a car, whatever, those days were ox and donkeys, falls into the pit. Torah tells us, the Rashi says, first of all, we don't understand the whole Gemara. This is a big Gemara, whole Talmud of what exactly is the law of digging a hole in the public domain. What are you responsible on the digging or on the not covering? Or what are you responsible if you dug one hole, 2 holes? Torah ultimately tells us, you didn't cover it, but if you did cover it, then you're not responsible. You covered it. And over here, the Torah wants to tell us that you dug the hole in the public domain. And again, Rashi says again by shor v'chamor, when the Torah says a ox or a donkey, the Torah does not mean only an ox or a donkey. The Torah means any animal. The Torah usually says, usually people those days would use their ox and a donkey and carrying and dragging, and that's what they would. That was a normal way of doing things. But let's say I use my chicken. I don't know. I use my dog to carry. It doesn't make a difference. The Torah just means an animal. Any kind of animal that I use goes into the category of an ox or a donkey. Verse 34. Baal habar yishali. So the owner of the pit. It's an interesting word the Torah uses. The owner of the pit. I dug it in the public domain. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the city. The road. How does it become mine? It becomes mine. Yishalim keshev yasel abaylav. He shall return the money to its owner. Va'ames yeloi. Oh, and the debt shall be his. This is also a very interesting law. So Rashi says, what's going on with Rashi? Balaber, the creator of the whole. Not the Balaber, the owner of the whole, the city who owns the road. Because it's a public domain. No, you're the owner of the whole. You dug the hole, you become the owner of the whole. So here, that's a very interesting expression in the Torah. The Torah makes it, you became the owner of this hole. Even though the hole does not belong to you, it belongs to the city. It's a public domain. But it becomes your hole. And you have to give kesef. Now she says, when the Torah says kesef, you should know in general, Yosef, it doesn't only mean money. It also means shava kesef, the value of money. So clothes is the value of money. Let's say I had the money. I have a bunch of clothes in my house, and I can, value it as I owe $100. So I give you 3 of my suits that are worth now $100. And that would also be an aspect of repayment. I don't always have to pay money, cash. Sometimes I can also pay value of money. So the dead animal belongs to the one who sustained the damages. Rashi says. That means that they assess the carcass, and he, the owner, take it for value, and the damager pays him in addition to it the carcass payment for his damage. So he gets both. He gets the carcass, the animal, the owner of the animal who got hurt, and he gets the value of the money. Verse 35. If a man's bull strikes his friend's bull, not a person. Bull goring bull, ox goring ox, and it dies. What do you do? Sell the bull that is alive. The chotzu is kaspe, and you pay half of the you see half of the value. The gam hames yachtzun, and also you divide the dead body. This is a very complicated law, and we'll try to do the Rashi. It's a long Rashi, and first of all, Rashi says, again, he pushes him, he shoves him with his horns, or with his body, or with his feet, or with his teeth. Doesn't make a difference how the ox gored the other ox or hurt the other ox. Any part of his body is considered kiyigoif. Shayrish shalish. A shayr that belongs to a man, it doesn't belong to the public. It belongs to a man, it's not a wild ox. The scripture speaks with 2 bulls of equal value. A bull worth 200 zuz that killed a bull worth 200 zuz. Whatever the carcass is worth much or worth little, when this one takes half the value of the live bull and half the value of the dead one, the result is that each one sustains half damage. That death inflicted upon him. So that's a half. You have $20 bull. Both bulls are worth $20. And now he killed a bull. So you sell the $20 bull. So you give him $100 from the sold live bull, and then you take the dead bull, you cut it in half, and you sell it to a non-kosher self-understood, and you sell it to non-kosher. And that's how you evaluate. We're talking about non-aggressive bull. This is what happened one time. That's the general law. It's the concept of this law, that you give a person half of its value. That's called a tam. This is talking about a tam, a non-aggressive bull, a bull that did not gore 3 times, as you'll soon see the next verse. And next Rashi, next pasuk. If he's known as an habitual, again, he is already gored 3 times. And still the owner did not watch it, and he allowed him to gore a 3rd time. He has to pay for the entire loss of his friend's bull. And the dead body belongs to him. Again, what does that mean? Rashi says, first of all, it's not a tam. It's not a tam. This is known as an habitual gorer because he had already 3 gorings. So he's shalim, nezek, shalim, full damages. And the dead body belongs to the victim. In addition to that, the damage must be complete until the victim is paid his entire damage. So he pays twice. That's the difference between a tam, a non-habitual gorer, to an habitual gorer. A non-habitual gorer 2 times, he pays half of the damages. A habitual gorer, he pays full damage. This is a Torah law. This is a Torah law. It's not a civil. You don't find this in civil law. Verse 37. The whole new law. If a man steals a bull or a lamb, and he slaughters it or sells it, he has to pay 5 cattle for this bull, and 4 sheep for a lamb. If your uncle steals an ox and he shechts it, sells the ox, he now has to pay back 5 oxes. If he sells a sheep, stole a sheep, he has to pay back 4 sheep. Look at the Rashi. This is a Torah law. 5 times or 4 times. Rabbi said the God was considerate to people's honor. For a bull which walks on his own feet, and the thief was not disgraced by carrying it on his shoulders, he pays 5-fold. For a lamb where the thief carries on his shoulder, he had to push and work hard, he pays only 4-fold, because he disgraced by it. Meir said, come and see how great the power of work is. For a theft of a bull which causes the owner to stop working, the thief pays $5, 5 times. For a theft of the lamb which did not cause the owner to stop working, because the sheep does not work for him, but a cow works for him. So look at the 2 sages looked at the law differently. What do you learn from the law? So Scripture repeats them in mentioning of the bull and the lamb to tell us that the rule of the 4-fold or 5-fold payments applies only to a bull and a lamb. This is an interesting Torah law. Only you find this in the Torah. This law of a bull and a lamb. We're holding chapter 22, verse 1. A whole new law. If while breaking in, a guy is breaking into somebody's house, somebody's breaking into your house, to somebody's house, of a mess, and the guy killed him, the owner of the house killed him. Ein lo damim, he has no blood on his hands. Rashi says, he's breaking into his house, he's drilling into his house. Ein lo damim. So Rashi says it's not considered murder. It's as though the thief was considering to dead at the start. It's as if the thief was dead. Here the Torah teaches us a lesson. If somebody comes to kill you, you kill him first. And this thief has come to kill you because he knows that no one can hold himself back and remain silent when he sees people taking his money. So therefore, the thief has come with the knowledge that if the owner of the property were to stand up against him, he, the owner, would kill him. And therefore, he's dead. Coming into somebody else's house, coming in and sneaking in somebody else's house, you can the thief is as if he's dead already. and the person that stood up for his property and killed him is not liable. But there's always a but, and that's verse 2. But if the sun shone upon him, we'll soon see what Rashi means. Rashi will explain this verse. And as if he has blood, he shall surely pay. If he has no money, he shall be sold for his theft. So Rashi says, this is nothing but a metaphor, meaning if the matter is clear to you, that the thief is peaceably disposed towards you, similarly to the sun, which represents peace in the world, so too it's obvious to you that he's not come to kill you. Even if the owner of the money rises against him, for instance, example, if a father breaks in to steal his son's property, it is known that the father is not going to kill his son. He needs money. He has not come with the idea of murdering him. So then, if the son would kill him, he has blood on his hand. He, the thief, is considered as a live person, and is considered murder if the property owner would kill him. So that you have to know for clear. So if your best friend comes to rob you, then it might be that he's only coming to rob you. And you have to be, the Gemara actually says like two sages or best friends, that no one of them would not kill each other like a father and son. Shali Mishana Aganim, so the Torah tells the thief shall pay the money he stole. The thief is not obligated, you're not allowed to kill him. He has to pay. And that's what the Torah wants to teach us. So if you don't know who the thief is, you got to dig in your house, you better protect yourself. But if you know who the thief is, and you know he's just coming to steal your money, then you catch him and bring him to court and let him pay the value. So Rashi, it's very interesting in Rashi. So let's look at the Rashi. That's the Rashi. Uncle who rendered an eyewitness fell upon him, adopted another view, saying that if the witness discover him, the thief, before the property owner came, and when the property owner came against him, they warned him not to kill him, the thief is considered as if he has blood. Meaning he, the owner, is liable for him, the thief, if he kills him. Because we had witnesses, there were people there. You didn't have to kill the guy. You could have stopped him. You didn't have to kill him. So, because since he has committed a crime, when people can see him, this is not come with the intention of murder. And he would not kill the property owner because people are there, and he's not going to do it. We're talking about the Torah, the Torah started with Machteres. Machteres means that a person who came at night, he came through like dug a hole underneath your house. That's considered a person that's come sneaky, and he'll kill you if you're going to stop him. Therefore, you're allowed to kill him. But if a guy comes openly and there's witnesses there, he's not coming to steal. He's coming to try to steal and get out of there. It's a very interesting law. It's a very complicated law. Just gave you a general understanding. Verse number 3, a whole new law. If the stolen article is found in his possession, whether it's a bull, whether it's a donkey or a lamb, live, he shall pay twice. So Rashi says, it's found in his hand, meaning it's possession, meaning that neither slaughtered nor sold, because if he sold and slaughtered, he has to pay 4 or 5 times. So Rashi B'Shayrat Chamer, everything is included in the obligation of paying twofold payments, whether living or a thing or something which is not alive. For it says elsewhere, a lamb or a garment, for anything lost, it's twifold, he pays person. And this is also an interesting law that sometimes you have to pay double, which the Torah does not say over here, but another place exactly what it's talking about, when you have to pay double. It means we're talking about a situation where a person made a vow that he doesn't have it, a watchman, and then he pays double. Chaim shtayim mesim, he shall not pay him dead ones, but either live ones or the value of live ones he has to give. And that finishes the Chumash of the day. We will now go to the Tanya of the day, the 26th day of Shvat. We are holding chapter 28 in Tanya. The Alter Rebbe, it's beautiful Tanya, the Tanya teaching of Tanya with the Alter Rebbe continues to emphasize to us, as he calls us, Beinanim. Surely shouldn't be the Shoyim, we should be Beinanim. The Jew that struggles, the Jew that has issues and challenges and evil thoughts and evil feelings, and he has all these struggles in life, depression and sadness, everything else. And that's what we are, we're human beings. And Alter Rebbe said in the last learning, a person shouldn't think he's a tzaddik. He's a regular person. He should be happy who he is. So therefore, Alter Rebbe continues. He's trying to find any kind of a negative way, a negative thought that you might have in life, and how to overcome it, how to overcome these negative thoughts. So the Alter Rebbe says, even if lustful imagining or the extraneous thoughts occurred to him during his service of God, in Torah or in prayer with kavanah, person will ultimately fall in his davening. Suddenly he has evil thoughts. He's trying to concentrate. His mind doesn't want to stop thinking evil. So again, the Alter Rebbe underlines, Al Yoshis Leiv Aleim. He should not pay them any attention. You're giving too much attention to your own negative things. Move away. Take your mind off it for a second. Try to even do it for a second. You'll realize, people don't realize that they can move, they have the power of their mind. Nobody can stop them from thinking something else. Start thinking something else for a moment. You'll teach yourself to how to move your mind off for things. Don't be foolish. To engage in the midah, in the attribute of this extraneous thought. Why are you allowing your midah, your evil tendency, your critical midah, your taiva to get the best out of you? Stop it. Move away. Think about something else. Now you might say, oh, it's going to come back again. But if you teach yourself, if I teach myself to start thinking other things, even for a second, as the Alter Rebbe says, is an accomplishment. So you'll go from a second this moment to 2 seconds and next time to 3 seconds to a minute next, maybe after a while to 2 minutes. You'll teach yourself how to stop thinking negative. You learn them, because again, the Alter Rebbe emphasizes the Torah is talking to be able to not to have evil thoughts. That's talking to a righteous person. It's not talking to a regular person. Such things were intended only for tzaddikim. That they don't incur any evil thoughts. Other people are giving them evil thoughts. Other people are telling them negative things. A tzaddik doesn't have any evil thoughts. But all of us, our evil, we don't have anybody to help us with evil thoughts. We have a Baruch Hashem, our own. That's why you should, when somebody comes and wants to tell you something evil, you say, I have enough of my own. I need yours. Thank you very much. I have my own problems. So you're going to give me more problems. Thank you very much. So a tzaddik, he only receives negative from others. A Beinani receives, he has his own negative. He has his own negative. So how can he rise himself up? And he's bound below. So how is it possible? I have a nefesh of Bahamas. I have an evil inclination. I am a Baal Taiva. I'm a human being that has Taivas. I have jealousy. I have hate. It's all in me. I have hate. I have jealousy. I have depression. I have anxiety. I have all these things. So I'm going to go in denial that I don't have these things. So the Alter Rebbe says, you're right, you have these things, but you can push it away for a moment. You're not going to get rid of them. You'll control them again. We're all trying to control it. And you have to teach yourself to control it. Nevertheless, he must not be downhearted nor feel dejected or despicable because of these occurrences of extenuous thoughts during his service of God when he ought to be joyful. He should realize the battle has just started. That I have, from my character has now come to my mind is because now is the time to go out to war with it, to push it away. He should draw fresh strength and intensify his determination with all his power to pray with concentration, with greater joy and gladness, because he's in a struggle. He's in the fight. That he has an evil thought, that shows him that there's that the Yetzer Hara doesn't want him to pray. His evil inclination that is in him doesn't want it to daven, doesn't want it to have a positive. Wow, now you get fighting. Stop it. When he realization that the foreign thought which occurred to him, where does it come from? Klippa comes from the covering, from the left part of his heart, which wages war within the Bein against the divine soul within him. It's exactly why you think he's coming to you when you're davening, because he doesn't want you to daven. Why does he think he's coming to you when you're learning? Because he doesn't want you to learn. So therefore, that's when you have to go to battle. It is known the way of combat. It's trying to destroy you. Here you're davening in a holy place, in a holy time, a holy space. And it's going to tell you not to daven. It's going to start bothering you. Phone calls, texts, whatever it might be. That when one of them gains the upper hand, what happens? Then the second one doesn't say, okay, I give in. Then you get, what do you mean? That's not a fight. The second one gets the strength to fight it back. With all the strength. Therefore, the battle between the divine soul and the animal soul, when the divine soul exerts itself and musters all its strength in prayer, thereby to weaken and even vanquish the animal soul. That's when that's why it's called in the Zohar, it's called davening is called the time of war, because that's the hardest thing for Jews to do is to pray. All we see personally that everything comes to bother you when you're praying. Like this, you have no bothers. Suddenly, when it comes to pray, everything suddenly I'm starting to think of every narishkeit and every crazy thing in the world. Because why? That's the battle. Your godly soul is having such a high when I go to pray, and my animalistic says, "Oh no, I'm going to fight him," and that's the time of battle. Therefore, I cannot give in. I have to fight it stronger. Azai, the clip of the animal soul to gather strength to counter it, aiming to confuse it and topple it, divine soul, by the means of foreign thoughts. And you can say this concept by everything in life. Whenever I want to do something good, automatically, doesn't make a difference what the good is, automatically my animalistic soul says, wait a second, cool down. Wait a second. Why get involved? Why get so hot about it? That's this time of battle. Don't give in. You're a Beinoni. You're not a tzaddik. You're not a righteous person. So therefore, I know who I am. I'm a Beinoni. I want to be Beinoni, and therefore, when I want to do, when my Yetzer Hara comes to bother me, that's when I have to start to fight, not to give in. That's not fair. The Yetzer Hara comes to start to bother me. My evil thoughts come to start to bother me. That's when the fight begins. And that's when the victory happens. Not when everything is good. When your animalistic soul or your evil inclination comes to bother you, that's when the fight starts. That's when victory happens. So be happy that it happened, because it shows who you really are. Don't be in denial that it suddenly, when you sat down to daven, suddenly we sat down to pray, suddenly an evil thought came to you. Or when you went to do a good deed, suddenly evil thought came to you. That's you. That's who I am. I have an animalistic soul. I have an evil inclination. I have this evil tendencies. I'm not running away who I am. But now I'm going to show you that I have a godly soul, and I'm going to win. I'm going to win this battle. I'm not going to give in to my evil tendencies. I'm going to win this battle. And when I win the battle, it's not only, as Alter Rebbe said before, it's not only a victory for you, it's a victory for God. It's a victory for godliness. It's a victory for good over evil. You can't imagine the success that it happens when you win this war. I wish you, today is the 26th day of the month, which is the second half of chapter 119, starting from the letter Mem and till the end of the chapter 119. So it's a half of chapter 119. If you do that's half a chapter of 119, you have accomplished the chitas of the day. What could be better than that? I wish you a wonderful day. See you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock as we continue the fascinating chumash of the Jewish law, which I tell you, you need to learn Baba Metzia, Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra, which are three big tractates in Talmud, and you'll get to understand all the basic laws. At this portion is the basic civil law between man and man in Jewish law. So God bless you all. Have a wonderful day, godly day. Looks like it's going to be a rainy day in Florida, but I wish you a wonderful and beautiful day. God bless you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Rabbi.
God bless you.